Hello guys, today I'm going to be reviewing the you can't see properly, X-Files box set. So that's season 1 to 9 and the 2 films, that's all of it. Now I watched it, the odd episode when I was in my early teens, and I loved it, and I also knew that how big it was. There's like lots of series, supernatural based series, like vampire series and werewolf type series and things like that. But back then, there wasn't much of that, and X-Files was one of the first ones really to make it popular, to have kind of sci-fi kind of series, really can't say how popular it was. Comedy shows would parody it. It was in pop songs and things like that. It was massive, because I know there's a lot of people these days who haven't seen it and not familiar with it. So yeah, it was big. And it is a classic. But I'm obviously, since I'm reviewing the whole box set, I'm not going to review every season, down to minute detail, but I will go into quite a lot of detail in general. That is it as good as we remember, those who have seen it before? Is it really as good as we thought it was? And I'd say no. And I'm going to go through the reasons. Let's start with the central plot. The central plot is Mulder is an FBI agent. He's set to investigate the X-Files, which are cases that have been closed or don't make any sense, and they've just been put on the back burner and no one's really interested in, and no one's interested in investigating it. Anyway, Dana Scully is a scientist, and she's a doctor, and she's sent to discredit his investigations and pretty much close them for good. And obviously she starts to see some of the weirdness that he's investigating is real, and obviously a bit of a romantic relationship happens between them. Now, season 1 to 3, or 2 to 3, like I said, it took me about 6 months to watch it all, so I can't quite remember when things happen. But in general, the first 1 to 3 seasons are done in the early 90s, and this is a special effects show, so those seasons haven't aged all that well. Some of them have some great, interesting storylines and plots and stuff, but in general, the effects and stuff have made it age not all that well. And that obviously, the writers didn't know how popular this was going to be. So some of the kind of the main kind of running theme throughout the series was a bit higgledy-piggledy. They didn't seem to know where they were heading exactly. But I'm going to get onto that further, because yeah, that's one of the problems with the series. Most of the episodes and stuff are individual plots, so they start and have end. They start and they finish within that episode, and they don't really touch upon it again. Now, obviously, saying the effects and stuff were all not very good for the first couple of seasons is it's early 90s, so you can't really expect that great effects. But saying that, probably my favourite episode in the entire saga of X-Files is in one of these seasons. I think it's called Space. Now, I'm just going to briefly touch on this one. It's about an astronaut, a retired astronaut. He's in mission control and is some of his astronauts are in some kind of trouble. Now he's haunted by things he saw when he went up to space, and and he's pretty scared. And well, I don't really want to give too much away, but it's pretty creepy. It gave me the chills long after the episode finished, and I was hoping for some more similar episodes like that, and none of them quite got as good as that one, for me anyway. Now another thing is the relationship between Dana Scully and Mulder in the first couple of seasons, 2 or 3 seasons. They were really kind of like really touchy-feely and looked into each other's eyes, and it looked like they were going to kiss at any moment. And then like on season 3 or 4, their relationship changed and they were a bit more colder to each other. Now obviously I'm guessing they knew that this X-Files was getting really popular, and they wanted to drag out their relationship. So they made them a little bit more colder to each other, and that was a little bit annoying, but you could definitely tell the relationship changed between those seasons. Now, seasons 4 to about 7 had the main story pretty much along with the film. The film came between season 5 and 6, the first one, and it pretty much reveals the main plot, and most of the stuff is finished within these seasons, the main plot and stuff, and Dana and Scully finally get it together, and you're like, wow, that was great. Where is it going now? Now, series either 7, 8, or 9, or just 8 and 9, had new characters. Mulder disappeared. Scully was not really in the picture much. And these 2 new ones carried on the X-Files. Now, unfortunately, these actors and characters were great, but I think for most people, the X-Files was Scully and Mulder and their relationship and stuff, and it obviously only lasted 2 or 3 seasons before it finished, and I can totally understand why, because like I said, even though they were good, kind of was a Mulder and Scully series, wasn't it? So that was kind of unfortunate for them to have to try to take over. But obviously the effects and some of the writing in these later series were actually really good. So it's kind of a mixed bag, really. And then they tried to reboot the main theme story, and it really didn't play all that well for me, to be honest. It seemed a bit contrived, and I just kind of lost interest in that. But at the end of season 9, they obviously finished it off with a film-length episode, and they brought Mulder back, and they brought all the main characters back into this big reveal for the ending, and it was very underwhelming and anticlimactic. The big reveal. It could have been done a lot better, but it wasn't written all that well, and just came across like, oh, is that it? That's the end of the whole X-Files saga. So that was disappointing, but not as disappointing as the next film that came out after the end of the series. Now, obviously, it's all about paranormal activity, but I think most people remember X-Files for the UFOs and the aliens. So obviously people were hoping for that kind of thing for the next film. Unfortunately, it wasn't. It's about someone who can see what a killer is doing, and a psychic, and they try to find the killer via this psychic and stuff. If this was an episode of the series, I thought it was quite good. But as a film, it was very disappointing. No aliens after such a long gap between the end of the seasons and the film. And they also, Dana, Scully and Mulder took such a long time to get their relationship to get together. And then in this film and in the series, you don't really see them as a couple for very long. You know, they only have a few scenes where they're all like, I love you, you love me, blah blah blah, type of thing. And in this film, to add some kind of tension, they kind of made it seem like they were going to maybe split up, or they weren't into each other as much as they thought, and that just annoyed me. You know, I've spent so long kind of egging them on to get them to get it together. They finally get it together, and then for the film they try to split them up again, and it's just, don't waste my time, you know. So that film was very disappointing. It was okay, but it was disappointing. So I know I'm gonna have one more rant, and that's about Scully. She's a scientist. She comes in and goes, Mulder goes, "Oh, it must be aliens." And she goes, "Don't be ridiculous, Mulder. There's no such thing as aliens." Being a scientist, obviously, she would know that there's millions of galaxies out there with millions and millions of stars, and in those stars have lots and lots of planets. You know, it's not beyond belief that there's another intelligent life out there. Of course, the chances of them coming visiting us are very slim, but she's also very religious. So, you know, you're talking about, you think a man in the sky has made the earth in 7 days, and praying to him will make good things happen and stuff. But then you're telling Mulder that aliens can't possibly be real, but God might help us. That just seems implausible, really implausible for me, especially since she's supposed to be a scientist. It's just really, just puts a hole in the almost the whole entire series for me. That is a rant that probably most people just go over the head and not bothered by it at all. But like I said, it does bother me a bit. But is it a classic? It is a classic. There's some great episodes. The central theme is from the from season 1 to 5 or 1 to 7 or whatever is quite a good plot. It just doesn't really hit home properly like it should. Now they're making now there was rumours about them doing a reboot, and I was really hoping for a reboot and them maybe cutting seasons down from 9 seasons to 5 seasons and working on the plot better and, you know, pacing properly, and obviously the effects would be awesome and more believable. Unfortunately, it turns out it's going to be a 6-episode sequel, so that is quite disappointing. But hey, well, at least we're getting a little bit of extra X-Files, and like I said, it is a classic. If you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch, especially if you love your sci-fi, fantasy, and paranormal type series and stuff that are 10 a dozen these days. It wasn't back in those days, and this made it popular. So out of 10, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. So there, yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.